Hi guys, I'm making this video to show you how I made this photo. Da, 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 da. Equipment you need: camera and lens, tripod, hardboard or old tabletop, the product, piece of card to match the colour of the perfume, glue gun, clamps and gaffer tape, reflectors and diffusers, something to prop the hardboard up with, piece of card to block the sunlight, gin and tonic, ice. So first thing you need to do is use a glue gun and put a bit of little glue on there, because we want to give it that surreal look of it hovering on its, or like balancing on its corner. A lot of photographers use this technique for rings and other jewellery. You know when you see those photos when the ring is balancing on its end? That's normally using a glue gun. Because you only want a little bit, as you can see I've already tried here. I've only got a few seconds and I'm going to slide it on like so, because I don't want to see the glue in the photo. I'm just going to blow on it. Okay, so now that is ready. So I want to create a really long, interesting refraction of light. So I'm going to use these magazines, and as you can see the sun is just coming in like this. So I'm going to put these magazines under the bit of wood, under here, just to allow the refraction to be a little bit longer. Put it up there. And you see this wobble? I want that to be secure because I'm going to be making a composite where I edit lots of different photos together, so I want it to be quite secure. I know from practicing that it'll be through there. Typical. Okay, now that I've got the product sorted, my idea is to have a thin beam of light. If I put something here, the shadow isn't the same as this. You can see that it's a little bit softer here. You may not be able to see because it's quite, the exposure is all over the place. But it's very hard, soft. The reason it's soft is because the light is being blocked by this window. So what I'm going to do is put a piece of cardboard here and create a thin beam the same size or just a bit bigger than the bottle. So, because I can move it again. Yep, I think that looks alright. Right, so I've got this set up. Some of you might be wondering, where did you get this idea, Ewan? What I tell my students quite often is, you don't always have to find inspiration from looking at other art or other photography. Sometimes the inspiration can come from literally in your living room or in your kitchen. Basically, this light comes in every single day. I picked up the perfume and thought, that looks kind of cool, so I'm going to photograph it. What I'm going to do now though, because the sun is moving too fast for me to photograph it and compose it here, I'm going to put it here, because I know the sun's going to be moving, and I'm going to compose the camera. Fell again! So now that I've got this sorted, it's going to explain a few little bits of what you need to get this photo sorted. Something I didn't explain, or I left out on the kit list, two things. Black and white paper, shutter release cable. These are about £10 on eBay, and the reason you need it for this photo is because of this harsh light, which is also making this video terribly lit. I'm going to need to shoot a HDR, which means high dynamic range, and the reason you need to shoot that is because you've got this really harsh bright light next to really dark light. So what you do is you take overexposed image, well exposed image, and underexposed image, which is dark, normal and light, and you put them all together in post to bring out all the details and the shadows and bring out the details and the highlights, and it'll make a much more pleasant image. It will also be more recognizable because that's the way we see. Like, I'm looking at this and I can see detail here, I can see detail here, but on a camera you can either see white or grey or maybe black. So the reason you've got black paper, later on I'm going to be using it to create certain reflections on the shiny surface. For the white, I'm going to be placing it around the product to create white reflections. I'm going to be using these diffusers as well as reflectors, which is literally just foam board with something called translume stuck to it. And I found that out by a photographer called, or a YouTube channel called Vidson. Another thing you'll need is a diffuser. This was £30, so it's not expensive. Once I've shot my product, concentrating on the nice reflection, I'm going to put this in front of the sun to create a nice even soft light, so then I can focus on the smaller details. To shoot the HDR aspect of it, you can't change the aperture because that will change the depth of field. So depth of field is how much is in focus. I can't change the ISO because it will change how grainy and crisp the image is, so I only can change the shutter speed. That's why we need this. This tripod may be a reasonably good tripod. Just me holding onto the camera or pressing the shutter release is going to shake the camera, and I'm going to be going down to shutter speeds such as 20th of a second, so we need it really steady, and I'm not going to move either. Another thing is I've set this camera to shoot with a quiet shutter speed rather than a normal shutter speed to try and eliminate, because normally it would be quite loud, whereas if it's slower it's going to be a little bit more gentle. Okay, so I'm going to put it in position like so, and I have to be really quick with this next shot. I need the sun to barely move. I'm going to wait for this tiny little bit to stop shaking, and I'm going to start on 20th of a second, very overexposed, 50, 80, and you can see with that range of exposures I'll be able to put them together and get a high dynamic range, going from shadows to highlights. Okay, now that we've shot the images bright, medium and underexposed, I can now remove this because I want lots of light, focusing on the small details of the lid. What I'm going to do is put a diffuser just about here. This is a close-up of the harsh light, and what we're focusing on here is this bit. And you'll see what a difference the diffuser makes with the light. Okay, so now what we're going to be doing is focusing on making this bit look nice and pretty. First thing we're going to do is get the lid looking good. The reason that these are so good is because they're so light. You can literally stand them up with a clip, like so. No need for any fancy stands or anything. What we're focusing on is the lid. So if you look at that lid, that's super highlighty at the moment, but if I bring it in, ooh, that's nice and silver, not overexposed whatsoever, which is exactly what we want. This video is slightly underexposed, so you'll have to work with me. The next one is, we want the silver of the lid to look shiny. It's looking a little bit messy. Right this up a bit. Mainly because of the actual inside of the lid. I was thinking about photographing the lid like so, and then making the silver looking very shiny. But when you see a before and after of this, the actual plastic of the lid distorts it, so it wouldn't actually look realistic to edit both of those together, because you want that bit of distortion, because it's the subtleties of products which makes all the difference. We now need to sort the right hand side of the lid, so I'm bringing it in like so, and I'm just trying to even out the light, and you'll have a slight line on it because we're actually reflecting the inside of the plastic lid. Just move this up a little bit like that, so I can get the paper. What I want to do is try and get rid of any mess, and when I say mess, I mean any of the pink. By putting this white paper around, kind of stops any of the pink being reflected, and it's nice and perfect. And then you wonder, why have I got the black? So the black is to actually add reflection, because you don't want it completely matte. You want it to look shiny and glossy, because that's what it is, a lovely glossy bottle. So there'll be a composite of photographing bits of the bottle like this. I'll hold the black here, and can you see how it's mainly focusing on the top of the lid? That's then gonna show up a few details on the top of the lid. Right, last bit, we need to light this bit of leather. Because it's backlit at the moment, there's no light going onto that black, and we need a little bit extra light. We're not going to use a flash. We want the light to come this way, and then I'm going to reflect it that way onto the leather. So I'll get rid of this, so strong light's coming. What I'm then going to do, I don't want this really harsh light to be there because it'll just make things quite difficult. What I'm going to do is very carefully balance these little beauties. Hey. So as you can see, the light's coming over the top. This is still soft. Hold this, and you may not be able to see it on the video too well, but I'm reflecting it there. I'll go get a mirror. So with this diffuser, the video can't really pick up what I'm reflecting very well because of the harsh light. So I'm going to use a mirror like this, and you can see how the leather is now being lit. So now that we've shot everything, we'll move to Photoshop and Lightroom, and I'll show you how to put them all together. Right, first thing I like to do is use Lightroom to go through the photos, choose the ones I like, and also set the white balance for the editing. So I use this, as you can see at the bottom here, the white piece of paper was in one of the photos. I'll use the eyedropper to set the white balance. I'll then select all the photos, Command A, sync, make sure it's clicked, sync. So now all the white balance is the same. I probably will have to change them later on, it just kind of is a little bit easier. So HDR, we've got one dark, one well exposed, one overexposed. So you select all, right click, photo merge, HDR. So what this has done is merged all three photos together, so you get some detail across the shadows, highlights, and the midtones. So you click on the HDR, and you can now see detail in the shadows, detail in the highlights, detail in the midtones. So now I've got a base for the shadows. I need to look through all the photos for the smaller details for the perfume. So I'm going to go through all of these at the bottom, and quickly I'll be zooming in, I'll be choosing the best photos for each tiny detail, and once I've chosen the ones I like, I will then bring them onto Photoshop. I use the pen tool to select different details, such as this is going to be a detail for the leather. Because the camera hasn't moved, when I copy over the smaller details, they'll all line up, and I will be careful not to choose details that are going to look too false. Right, so I'm going to speed up this process because you're going to be bored to tears watching me edit. If any of you do want to see the edit, I have recorded the whole video. Just leave a comment and I will upload the full editing video. So I got to about here and I thought it was kind of nice, but there was something missing. I thought it looked a little bit flat here. So I may have spent the time to shoot HDR, but I'm actually going to edit this finished bottle onto a much darker photo, and I'm going to have the bottle smaller. I think I was playing with the composition here and cropping it out, but I quite like the bottle being smaller in the frame. So something to learn from this is 1, edit the photo before you make the video, and 2, always be critical. Never just accept what you've done and be stubborn to change your idea. Let your ideas change, take on board feedback, and make sure when you listen to your critical thoughts, don't just settle, make sure you keep pushing to produce the best work you can. So there we are. If you liked this video, please like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you when I see you.